Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Friday, May 5th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you are someone that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used as a tool to help make good decisions as a trader, this would be a video for you. First off, a couple quick clarifications. Number one, the price you see over here will be changing and moving around, and the candlestick you see right there will also be moving around. That is because the market's still open for a small amount of time, but I like to do these videos when the market is still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day price movement. And then second, I'll be using the 30-minute time frame, meaning each one of these candlesticks here represent 30 minutes worth of time. So stock number one here, AMD, and this will mean more to those of you that watched yesterday's video, but if you did, I talked about what I called one of my favorite patterns, the falling wedge. And let me be very clear, did I think it would get this crazy on the breakout? I did not think that at all, but you can see right here, classic example of the price coming up there, breaking up through that pattern, doing a little consolidating, and then right there, massive explosion. Again, was that part of it like some sort of guarantee or no, nobody, I don't think any, at least I certainly didn't think that the breakout would get that fast, that quickly, but overall, huge movement from that falling wedge pattern. So for anybody that watched yesterday's video and took advantage of it, congratulations, but let's get some new levels updated. As far as newer levels are concerned now, resistance-wise, first key level now to watch is going to be that area right there, which you can see by using that point. And that point did a fantastic job of forecasting where that area of resistance is at. So if the price does turn itself back around, that'll be the new key, overarching level of resistance on whether or not it can be broken. If you like to play more so supports, then that's where an interesting dynamic comes into play, because you can see right now the price pulled back, and as of now is finding support right there at that purple line, which on my chart denotes a very famous, the very well-known 50 paired moving average, currently valued at 86.50. So keep an eye on that for more of a support side of things. But yeah, if this thing can turn itself around, get back up to that trend line and get a break up through it, then who knows, maybe there's another round of partying that's to come. Next one, SVRE, and interesting scenario here based on the fact that it started so strong and then got really, really ugly as the price dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. And at that point, it becomes a very valid question to say, is this one of these things where it's a total gap and trap where it's just going to collapse right back down? And we got our answer. And no, it wasn't. The price has now actually started to work its way back upwards here. Now, let me be very clear. Just because the price has a slight little uptrend here does not mean that this pullback is completely over. So let me change that to green to represent support. But is it plausible? Does it make sense to at least question, hey, maybe this pullback is over? Yeah, it makes perfect sense now. But case in point, let's say the price was still dropping, and I'm sitting here saying, hey, it's looking like the bottom is in. You'd be totally justified to say, what are you talking about? Based on what? But that's not the case, right? The case is that the price has actually got a little upwards trend to it. Does that guarantee this is the end of the pullback? Of course not. No guarantees, but it does make it plausible. And then as far as potential area of resistance to watch, keep an eye on that little. So you have basically a little symmetrical wedge pattern here. So yeah, if you like to play these scenarios where it starts off really nice, goes through a deep pullback, and then you start to get those scenarios where that, makes it logical to say, hey, maybe this is the bottom and the end of the pullback, then certainly keep an eye on it. Next one here, PACW, one of these regional banks that is now in the news, and just those scenarios where you got to manage risk, you got to cut losses, because if you try to get fancy with FRC and you started to hold and hope, you got absolutely destroyed. But like I said, all it takes is some sort of news, even if it's just not news as bad as expected. These things can really get a nice move in the upwards direction. And given that I'm assuming you're a trader that's watching this, then those are the sorts of situations that you're watching for. And just to reiterate, I haven't said in this video, but in past watch list videos, the idea of a watch list is to find unique, to find interesting situations, and not rush out and buy anything, but to watch it and see what happens. And when you have all these bank stocks in the news, this is an interesting situation that, again, is worth at least watching. So the level that stands out to me from resistance standpoint, up there at $4.15. So keep an eye on that. And then for more of the support standpoint, right down there at the 270 mark is a very interesting level. So it goes back to the premise that we just talked about. Gap down, and then it's now started to go sideways. So does that mean that this is for sure the bottom? No. But does it become plausible to say, hey, maybe this is some sort of bottom forming? It's absolutely rational to think like that and to at least keep an eye on it. Next one here, FHN, another one of these bank stocks. So I'm going to keep it relatively straightforward and short because I don't want to repeat myself, but same general premise. A little different in this one because this one I would say has certainly more of an upward slope to it, but broadly speaking, same general idea. Huge gap down here, But instead of after the gap down, it continuing to bleed and bleed and bleed, it's actually done the opposite. It's got a bit of an upward slope to it. Does that mean a bottom? Of course not guaranteed. But does that make it a plausible scenario to at least keep an eye on? Absolutely. So if you like these scenarios, here's another one that you can watch. Next one here, AMC, and the upwards move continues, and this will mean a bit more to those of you that watched the previous video, but talked about that area of resistance right there. And right there, you can see, surprise, surprise, right where the price struggled. Does that mean that the price can never get through that area? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it makes sense why the price ultimately did start to struggle up around that area. So moving forward, right up here around the 605 mark will be that key area of resistance. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that line right there as it served its purpose for now. And then just from let me squeeze this down to give more of a context. From a bigger picture point of view, as far as supports are concerned, at this point, I think might as well just keep an eye on that purple line there, the 50-period moving average. Keyword being moving, so as time goes by, that line is going to move itself higher and higher. So it's basically like a trend line that's going to draw itself for you. So from an overarching standpoint, like I said, as long as the price stays above that level, then from a broad point of view, as you're seeing here, the overall trend remains up. So nothing can go straight up. So I mean, even if the price were to drop all the way down here and then do something like that, well, yeah, that'd be a deeper pullback, but it would still be above that moving average, which, like I said, keeps the overall trend up. But all in all, higher highs and higher lows is the name of the game, and that's what AMC has continued to do. Real quick, want to take a break and personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online class that I'm offering. So if you've been enjoying what you've seen and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency and manage risk, then certainly get signed up for the free live class. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box. If you're watching at my site, there's an area right there on the webpage. But one note, it is a live event. So a couple scenarios, maybe you have a busy schedule. You're like me, you got a bunch of kids. I have 5 of them. So I understand maybe already something on your schedule this evening, or maybe you're just watching this Friday morning and you completely missed the event. It will be recorded. So after the event has concluded and I get it uploaded, I'd be happy to send you a link to it. So just go ahead and drop me an email. But if you can make it live, then definitely get signed up and I'll see you here in just a few hours. Next one, FFIE penny stock. I'm disappointed. I mean, in hindsight, it's easy to see, and I guess volume wasn't huge, but there's a leading indicator right here. It came to life very nicely on Wednesday, and then today is where the follow-through came through. So, just a good example of a leading indicator, and then the volume really came pouring in, and nice upwards move here. But still, overall, worth keeping an eye on. So yes, very nice bounce here. Oh, here's a line from a previous time I did the chart. But let's map out some next potential areas of resistance with this thing now making a very impressive move in the upwards direction. And the next key battleground in my mind, right up there at 24 cents. If you go back through the history of things, you can see 24 cents, rejected the price, rejected the price, rejected, rejected, rejected. So I'm not saying that 24 cents is impossible to break. I'm just saying that if the price gets up there, then according to the track record here of the chart, the prices really need to bring its A game if it's going to be able to fight up through that level. So keep an eye on that, and I'll zoom back in here in terms of levels of support. So as far as supports are concerned, and for people that like to play more so the pullbacks, an interesting level from the pullback standpoint is that former breakout point right down there at that 21 cent mark. But yeah, no doubt about it. Huge move today. Big volume. Is this the start of something even bigger? We'll see what happens with it, but this one definitely has a track record of moving and moving quickly. So we'll see if things are just getting warmed up or not. Next one here, TSLA Tesla, and not a whole lot to report from a bigger picture point of view. The level up here of resistance remains level of resistance. The overall level of support down there remains support. Although I did think today had a good chance of at least going down there and testing it. That did not happen. But nonetheless, that doesn't change the fact that this 158.75 mark still an interesting and key level from a bigger picture standpoint. But in the very near term, I'm not even going to put lines on there. I'll leave this up to you. But there is certainly a wedge pattern here that has formed. So the big question in my mind going into tomorrow is who's going to win out of this wedge pattern? Are the bulls going to win out, which potentially sends it up to the top part of that area of resistance right there? Or are the bears going to win out where it pushes to the downside and then potentially goes down and retests those areas? But there's no doubt about it. This wedge is sitting there. The wedge has officially run out of space. So some decision is going to need to be made. Which decision will be made? Your guess is as good as mine. But from a trading standpoint, we don't need to know that because we can always react and then start to put trade plans together after we get the key dynamics kind of underway. So that's certainly going to be the main dynamic that I'm most curious about for Tesla on Friday. Next one, BOIL, a popular ETF that's out there, and I'm doing this one for really one reason, because of the ability to do this. You got to think that a lot of people have drawn that trend line into play, and you got to think that a lot of people who like to try to play those reversals are going to be watching that level and thinking, if the price comes up there and pushes up through it, that in and of itself could create a turnaround, even if you want to call it a self-fulfilling prophecy. So pretty straightforward premise here. Again, popular ETF. that's in a popular price range down below $5. That's gotten beat down quite a bit. That has a very well-defined, trend line right there. So it's just as a question of if you think that could induce some sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, then I definitely keep a close eye on it. Next one, NIO. Very, very impressive move today. Started yesterday with a slight move upwards. Got the break of this area of resistance right there, and then has just continued on up. So overall, we'll see if this is the start of a bigger reversal or if this is just one kind of glorified dead cat bounce. So only time will tell on that, but I will get rid of these lines on there as they serve their purpose for now. In terms of areas of resistance, the big battleground, at least that stands out to me, that will be very closely monitored right there at $8.15. You can see right there, former area of support, then going to resistance and resistance. So keep a close eye on that. But even with that, and the price breaking above it, don't get too excited because not that far away is the 200 period moving average up there at $8.31. Now, maybe NIO goes beast mode and breaks through that level and that level on Friday. Anything is possible. But my point here is that just because that initial level is broken, like I said, just keep in mind that you have a very famous, very well-known moving average looming not that far up overhead. In terms of levels of support, then like some of these other ticker symbols, the main level that I just keep an eye on at this point is going to be that 50-period moving average right now valued at $7.68. Next one, TQQQ, which is an ETF that measures the NASDAQ market. Talked about this one yesterday and how the price had broken down below that green line. And with the gap down this morning, that's where just basic technical analysis comes into play, which suggests that when levels of support are broken and close below, they tend to act as resistance. And I mean, just a classic example. So I'll turn this into a quick plug. Get signed up for that free class because here's a great example of it coming down, bouncing up, and oh, what a surprise. Look right where it got rejected back down, right at that former area of support. So point being, other than just the point of charts are awesome, so get signed up for the class. The other point being, moving forward, right there at that $27 mark, going to be a key level of resistance. And at that point, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this level up there for now. So keep an eye on that in the near term. And then I know the 50-period moving average has been a support level in some situations, but in this situation, because the purple line is up above the price, there's no support here. It would now be considered a level of resistance. So $27, and then that 50-period moving average would be the main areas of resistance. As far as supports are concerned, key level to watch closely, going to be initially that level right there, which is basically that but the former breakout point right there at 26.25. And then if that level can't quite hold up, then at that point, yeah, you're looking at a very real chance of that gap closing down around 25.75. But let me be very clear, gaps don't have to close. Nothing has to happen in the market, because if that were the case, then that would imply that guarantees exist, and they don't exist. So I'm not saying that the price is headed down to 25.75 because gaps have to close. I'm just saying that that would be the gap close location, which a lot of people do pay attention to. So that wraps up the top 10 list. Again, like I said earlier, if you liked what you saw here, then I want you to get signed up for the free live class. It'll be this evening, Thursday, May 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope to see you there. But also, like I mentioned earlier, if you can't make it for whatever reason, go ahead, send me an email to clay@claytrader.com, and I would be happy to send you a link to it. All I ask is, because it's a genuine live event, the event does first need to happen, then I got to get it uploaded, and then I'd be happy to send you a link. So I appreciate your patience and thank you in advance for it. And then as far as these top 10 videos are concerned, if you enjoy these, do two things for me. Hit that like button and then leave a comment. Tell me what you traded today. Tell me what you're watching tomorrow. Those two things help out the channel, help out these videos, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for hanging out, and I'll see you back on Friday.